talking to Danijel Horak from Conda, Austrian crowdinvesting company and technical partner on Ventu.rs. Conda is very successful in Austria, Germany, and a couple of other markets, and they've been operating since 2013. And so far, they had more than 120 companies raise over 35 million euros of investment. Were these numbers correct, Daniel?
Yeah, it's close to 35 million euros. That's right.
Okay, so you've been here for a while. Crowd investing was an unknown term back then when you started it. How did you explain what you were planning to do to the general public?
Yeah, well, when we started back then, you're totally right. That was something what nobody knew. The only thing what people knew in Austria was something called crowdfunding, but nobody had a clue where the difference between crowdfunding and crowd investing was. So number one, it was necessary for us to explain to people the difference. So what we always say is we do crowd investing, not crowdfunding, because crowdfunding is something like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, where you pledge some money, and in return, you get a reward. So you get a thank you, like a T-shirt, or you get the finished watch, but there is not, you won't invest. And what we started back then and what we still do is we run a platform where everyone is able to invest starting at 100 euros into startups and small and medium enterprises. And when the startups are successful and when the small and medium enterprises are successful, you earn money with your investment. So it's a bit similar to the stock market for larger companies, but it's only for small companies. And it's something what we kind of created from the very beginning in Austria, and where we've seen and where we still see that there is a huge demand, especially from startups and small and medium companies, to raise money through various channels. Usually those companies get some money from the bank and maybe some money from one private investor, so-called business angel. And then there is the part of the crowd where many people invest some hundred, some thousand euros, and together they are able to raise funds like 200,000, 500,000 euros for that company.
One very important thing, of course, was the type of businesses that were part of the process. What do you think is the best kind of business for the most suitable for crowd investing?
Yeah, well, I think especially at the very beginning, what we've seen is that especially companies which have products and services which are addressing a larger public, so mostly B2C companies, are a really good fit. Because usually they have a product, they have a service, what a broad range of people can understand, where they can be attracted to. And so that's one of the key features for people to invest. Another thing is what helps a company to successfully raise money is that they already have some crowd, some communities. So for example, they already have customers, they already have fans, they already have partners, supporters. So this is also a good basis for raising money from the crowd. What is always a bit of a challenge is if you have a super highly specialized B2B company, which is, I don't know, developing algorithms for the supply chain management, this might be not the perfect fit. So usually it's something, for example, one of our companies, which was super successful, they created a super new, very sustainable lifestyle drink, and they successfully made it to get listed in all supermarkets all over Austria and Germany. So this was a really good example for raising money. Another thing what we had is, for example, one of Vienna's most well-known soccer clubs. They raised about 3 million euros for building their new soccer stadium. So that was also a huge success, because for sure they had several 100,000 of fans, and they wanted to invest into that new stadium. So this, for example, was another huge success.
So it has to be understandable and relatable. It has to be something people can, see themselves as users and understand the product itself.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe to add, what's also really important is that there is a good team, and that there is a team which is also not afraid of talking to their crowd, because especially for early stage startups, so startups in the very beginning, their founders are like key to success. So it's important that the founders are not sitting in their garage and waiting for money running in. It's important that also they are part of the campaign, that they are out there, that they talk about the company, that they explain to the public why their company is a great investment opportunity. So that's another thing which is very important besides their product and services.
One more thing is that it has to be a product that's already on the market. It has to be something that's finished product. But which kind of business goals are the best for crowd investing? Is it like expanding the production, or is it expanding to other markets, something like that?
Yeah, usually it's about growing the company. So it's, as you said, it's expanding to a different market, it's expanding your product line, it's expanding your production facilities, is hiring new people. So the main bottom line is accelerating growth. And usually when you invest into a company, you don't want to invest in a company to pay bills from the past. It's about growing in the future and growing the company. And that's usually the case for startups, but as well as for small and medium enterprises. Often it's also a part of giving the company resources to invest. So for example, especially in the small and medium enterprises field, we also very often have companies which want to buy new machines, or for example, we had a hotel, and the hotel, they wanted to renovate parts of the hotel. So they needed sufficient funds to do that, and they needed the funds to also get money from the bank. So that's also very often a case where money is needed.
So your crowd investing campaign can be also something that you can use to get additional money from the bank, like a guarantee.
Yeah, it's usually when you look on a company, there is usually equity, and then there is other capital provided by the banks or similar institutions. So you have equity and debt, and you can usually leverage the equity, what you get from the crowd, to get bank loans and those things. And usually that money works as a securitization for the bank loan, for example.
Okay, so last couple of months were anything but usual. We had COVID-19 pandemics and everything. And during that time, you had a very successful project within your platform called Conda Helped or Conda Helps. So can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. When we've seen the results of the corona crisis and the pandemic, and we expect that this is going to have a huge impact on like businesses at all in Austria, because we had in Austria quite for a while a real shutdown. So stores had to be closed, and like the whole life was shut down, and everyone was like advised to stay home. And during that phase, even though before that phase, we decided that we want to take part in supporting companies which got into trouble during the corona crisis. So we defined that we create this Conda Helps initiative. The basic idea was that companies almost don't pay anything for our service, just the costs itself, which are mostly to cover third-party costs, and that we help them to do a really fast and quick road to starting the companies or their campaign. So it took us like 5 days from get to know that company to get the company on the platform, and help them to raise money through our crowd and help them to raise money through their crowd. And the model what we created was a special model because when the people invested, they invested into the company, but the interest they got paid were paid in vouchers or going to be paid in vouchers. So for example, if you invest, the first company what we financed was retail stores for bicycles. And for example, if you invested there, I don't know, 500 euros, you get for next year's every year a 50 euro voucher. So your interest is 10%, but the interest is paid in a voucher. So you can use that money to buy products there, which is cool for the investors because you can get some cool stuff from a cool bike company, but which is also awesome for the company itself because it accelerates their revenues and it helped them to bridge the time, which was almost 2 to 3 months, where they were not able to operate. And I think we raised for almost 10 companies almost 600,000 euros during these 2 to 3 months, and we really helped them to survive. We helped them to keep their employees in the company. So it was really a great success for us that we were able to help those companies.
You have a pretty big community right now. You've been around for 7 years. You gathered a lot of people who were interested in investing in this way. What did you learn about your community during the pandemics?
Well, for us at the very beginning, it was kind of a black box because we wanted to have that initiative running, but we had no clue if people during that unknown time, and especially these very kind of awkward times for all of us, we weren't sure if people will still invest. The really important and also really awesome thing was that people wanted still to invest and also wanted to help those companies. So people continued investing, and they were really a pillar for the companies to survive. And it's still amazing that so many people are still eager to invest, that so many people are still want to not leave their money on the bank and kind of wait that this money is going less and less worth. So the people are really eager to invest, and we have still every day a lot of €1,000 coming in for companies asking for money. And I think that's something really important, and I think that's something where we also have seen that on the one hand side we had a lot of state-driven initiatives to provide funds, but all of those initiatives took time and are still not fully operational. So we've seen that we can act very quick and that our crowd supported that. And I think that's something really, really awesome, because I think it's a proof for crowd investing itself, and that crowd investing gets more and more important in the future, because we still believe that crowd investing is going to be a cornerstone of the whole corporate finance world in the future. And we also think that it's going to be a new investment class for investors, because we've seen before, but also during the crisis, that people really want to know where they invest their money, that they really want to see what their money is doing good, and that they really want to participate on a long term when the company is successful. So that was really something where we were happy to see, and what we still use, and where we're going forward with that positive effect.
During the pandemics, you also had your regular campaigns that were active. So how did that work now when you had the parallel track with the Conda Hilft?
Well, for us, it was important that we make sure that our investors are aware of that Conda Helps is a bit a different model to our regular model, because as I said, for the Conda Helps model, we use the interest paid in vouchers. Our usual model is that people If they invest in a startup, they get kind of a virtual share. If they invest in a small and medium enterprise, they get regular interest. So these are two different models, and it was important for us that we show our investors and that we are highly transparent, that especially the companies which are affected by the pandemic, that this is super risky, but is also something where you can really do something good. So that's why we separated those two things. On the other hand side, we've seen that also a lot of companies approached us for our regular model, and that they wanted to use our regular model to raise funds. So there's day by day there are new requests, there are day by day new company are launched on our platform, and there is a huge positive impact, to say, on our daily business as well. So we don't have a negative impact of Corona on our side.
Okay, just for the end, for the last question, I wanted to get your opinion on how would you market. It's a similar situation like you had 7 years ago, but there is a difference because in Austria there is a custom for people to invest in some funds, in private pensions and stuff like that. In Serbia, we don't really have that. People are not used to any of these things. Some of them were made available in the past couple of years, but it's all quite new, and there is simply not a custom for something like that. What would you say to the general public who may be interested in something like this, in this model of investing and building your portfolio and building some revenue over the years? How would you describe the product, and what would be your key messages for them?
Yeah, I think on the one hand side, what helped us back then is that there was a strong initiative by some politicians which said that crowd investing is necessary for the future. So that helped us as a platform to get the commitment from a larger audience. But nevertheless, it was something pretty new, and also back then, but still in Austria, the people who invest on the stock market or in funds is below 10%. So it's really not something really common to Austrian people. And we still see that there is not a huge increase of people investing in the stock market. So there are hundreds of billion euros still lying around on the saving account with like interests which are below inflation. So it's just a pity, to be honest, from an economic point of view. But what we see from an investor's perspective, what's interesting for them is, on the one hand side, that investing into crowd investing means, on the one hand side, that you get like on a co-driver's seat with entrepreneurs, so you can be really close to building ventures, to building startups, to run small and medium enterprises. You can get to know the founders, and so it's something what people really value, is that close personal relationship for their investments, because it's not the black box where you invest and years later you have no clue how it happened that you lost your money or that you got some money. So it's something where you get really close and where you get direct interaction. So that's number one. So it's a lot of heart in there, where people say, yeah, I invest there because I like the founders, I like the business, I want to make it possible that they are successful. On the other hand side, if the company is successful, you can earn much higher interest compared to other investments, but it's still a risky investment. So what we always recommend is people that they should not invest their free money just in one company. They should divide in different companies. They should create a portfolio. And so step by step, people building their portfolio where they invested in 3, 5, 10 different companies. And based on the portfolio idea, they will earn money for that. So maybe they should not only invest in a startup, but also maybe into a small and medium enterprise. And through the mixture, it's possible to earn much higher interest compared to your saving account or something like that. But still, and that's something what we always stress is, this is a high risk investment. So you should only invest money where you have what you don't need for your daily living. So you should not sell your house or get a loan from the bank to invest into crowd investing. So you should invest your free cash flow, your free savings, which are not urgently needed. But nevertheless, we've seen through the last years that there is the potential for huge successful companies and also for great interest for investors.
Also, one thing I think is very important is that through the platform, it's all extremely simplified. It's easy to do it.
Yeah.
And that's also very, very important for users. They don't have to understand complex things. It's all very straightforward, very transparent, very simplified, and it's something you can do, in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that something what is super important is that the high transparency. So on the platform, you can see the business plans, the financial plannings of those companies. You can get in contact with the founders. And the investment process itself is super straightforward, is proven for the last years. And also afterwards, when the company raised successfully money, the cool thing is that you're still getting involved by the companies. So you get regular updates, you get input from the founders, you maybe get asked for some trials, or you get introduced into an investors club. So it's much more than just a simple, stupid investment, which is just boring, but it can be really fun to be invested in those companies.
Okay, Danijel, thank you so much for the story you shared, and I'm really glad that Conda Health was such a success. Hopefully soon we will launch the Serbian version, and perhaps we'll talk more about them. I'd like to thank you once again, and have a nice week.
Thank you for your time.
Bye.
Bye.